Okay, I think we're good to go.
Good to go.
All right, good evening. This is September 23rd. This is the regular agenda of the Brookfield zoning meeting. Present tonight is myself, Eric Cook, Kirk Timmerman, Mike Lucia, Francis Kwok, Mary Capiello, and Phoebe Holmes. First thing we're going to do is review the meetings, minutes of the previous meeting. So I have a motion.
I move that we, sorry, you want to
Go.
I move that we approve the September 9th, 2021 minutes.
So a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Fran, you want to go into the enforcement officers report, and then we'll do
Sure.
one code right after that.
Yep, not much has changed since last report 2 weeks ago. 107 Stony Hill Road. They're still working on the site up there. I was up there the other day. He is making progress, so it is coming along slow but sure, but he is definitely making progress. 8 Candlewood Birches. Again, they're on set for ZBA for a 9/4 of this next month. They have an application already resubmitted and stuff. I've already reviewed it. Everything looks good. It's just up to ZBA whether what conditions they're going to place, if they're going to approve it or not, or disapprove it. And the last one, that citation for 89 Wisconsin Road. I sent the citation out. I've been in contact with Mr. Goen, the property owner. I invited him to the next zoning meeting, which is in 2 weeks. He's difficult. That's all I'm going to tell you right now. I'm the devil, and he still has this commercial stuff there. I explained to him it's not a commercial property; it's a residential property. I can't tell him what he can and can't do with this property. He brought up the situation from Danbury years ago. Anyway, I did invite him to the next meeting. He did receive the citation, so I'll leave it at that with the commission. When he comes in at the next meeting, I'll obviously recuse myself due to the history I've had with him in the past from my dealings with him in Danbury. But again, he called me a lot of words tonight on the telephone, and I'm the devil. So I'll leave it at that. So.
All right, so we'll just keep it the way it is then until he has an opportunity to show up next time.
Yes, yeah. I told him I will call him tomorrow in my good graces, and I will give him the information to log into and stuff for the next meeting, and it's up to him. So, but I went by today. The commercial stuff's still there. He's got the Bobcat in the backyard. The chipper is still there. There's a chipper truck back there. It's all commercial equipment. How come I'm not going after the neighbor across the street? And I said, well, I don't have a complaint against the neighbor across the street. I got 3 complaints on you for commercial equipment. And he just was just, it's a dead end. So.
Is that it?
That's it.
All right, so we're gonna go on to B, One Tux Road, and I'm gonna read the letter into record, so it's actually on the record. So we have a letter from Collins and Hannafin, the town attorney, Francis Collins. September 16th, 2021, Eric Cook, Chairman, Brookfield Zoning Commission, address One Tux Road, owner Ernesto Luis, Zone TCD. Dear Chairman Cook and the members of the Zoning Commission, in my brief conversation with Jason D'Souza and Fran Lally, we do not have the timeline of uses fleshed out by the commission at the recent Zoning Commission meeting. I watched the video of this segment of the meeting. Burden of proof is on the property owner to establish a valid legal non-conforming use. Pleasant View Farms Development, Inc. versus Zoning Board of Appeals, 218 Con, 265, 272, 1991. The commission, based upon the timeline of facts and history it has determined, may legally conclude that the intervening use of the property subsequent to the hotel use with commercial uses on the ground floor and residential apartments on the second floor constitute an intended abandonment and discontinuation of the hotel use as a valid legal non-conforming use. Accordingly, the new transient type residential use as a rooming house cannot resurrect and rely upon the prior valid non-conforming use status due to intervening uses of the property, which evidence an intent to abandon the original valid non-conforming use. The current use, if the commission determines it is congregate housing, is unlawful because there is no special permit issued for this property formally permitting this use. It is my advice that the zoning commission entertain approaching this matter as follows. 1, place the matter on the zoning agenda under agenda under enforcement for discussion. And 2, after discussion, authorize me to send the property owner a letter informing him that the use of the property is unlawful due to the lack of an approved special permit and site plan, and that he must file an application for a special permit and site plan approval within 30 days of the date of the letter of the commission, which will authorize a cease and desist order to be issued. Sign the town attorney. Do we have any discussion about this? With any of the zoning? Okay, so I mean, as everybody knows from the last time, I mean, we pretty much fleshed out this discussion. So do I have a motion?
I make a motion to determine it's an unlawful use and to have the attorney send a letter to the property owner as he suggested.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Sorry, who
Alright.
seconded?
I did. Mike.
Mike did.
Mike, thank you.
All right, we're going on to the continued public hearing, which is continued to October 14th, 2021, which we already continued that out last meeting. No public hearing scheduled. We have old business, 7A, 140 Federal Road, Chick-fil-A. Application Z-21-80. Do we have anyone here from Chick-fil-A?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and board members. My name is Frank Gadoon. I'm the representative for Chick-fil-A on the Canopy Rollout Program across the nation.
Can you spell your last name for me, please?
Yes, it's G-A-W, D as in dog, U, N as in Nancy.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, can I share the screen and drop up the site plan?
Sure, I'll make you a co-host for just, give me 1 second.
Okay,
You're all set.
okay. Got the wrong plan up here. My apologies. All right. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, this is the Chick-fil-A Canopy program all across America. What Chick-fil-A is doing here is their number one concern is providing safety for the public as well as for their employees. So all across America, they've recognized.
No, I have an audio
Got it.
recording running as well, so we do have it recorded, but the video recording just restarted now.
Okay, all right, great. Do we have anybody here from 7B, One Tux Road? I don't see anybody. Fran, do you see anybody?
Mike, the fire marshal, was present. He was just hanging out, but he had heard what the commission had decided. So he was
Okay.
content with that, so.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm here. If you have any questions or,
Okay, well, it's really, do you have any questions?
no, I don't think so. I think it's all self-explanatory. And I think we're good and wait and see now.
Okay, all right, perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Right. All right, so we have no new business. We have no tabled items, but we do have, I think it's just one informal discussion, right, Fran?
Yes, yes. Yep, Alan Roth, yep, from Brookfield Village.
Okay, go ahead, Alan.
Sorry about that. Okay, so I came before the board, probably 10 months ago, and I presented a plan with 2 buildings in the back in Brookfield Village. Each is going to be 3 stories, and we were filling out, and we went through inland wetlands, and we were successful there. And now we're ready. We were ready to make our application, and the question of density came up. And in the code, it refers to section 3.14, and it says the maximum density is 8 units per acre. Now, there's no special section in the density section for TCD, so it has to come under other, and that's what I'm looking at. So I don't think that was the intent, because if you go to the TCD section, it talks about high density, making it downtown. So I don't know if there was an overlook, because the TCD peripheral zone is mentioned, but the TCD is not mentioned under the density section. So it looks to me like it was forgotten.
Well, you're not in the TCD.
The buildings are in the TCD.
Yeah, the ones behind on the corner of Station Road and Federal.
Oh, all right, we're talking about Station Road. I thought we were talking about down around 400, like 500 Federal Road.
No, this is in the Brookfield, the Four Corners.
All right, sorry, because yeah, another one came up, and I thought that's the one we were talking about, because they just met before the town. So, all right, never mind, my bad. All right, so let me take a look at that section then.
What section are we looking at?
3.14. It's around page 66.
Yeah, 3.14 is for multifamily dwellings in the residential zone. And the TCD has its own section 5, Article 5, which is around page 89, 90, 91. Depending on what version you have them printed out, it's different. But to what Mr. Rossman's saying, we don't specify any density in the TCD special district thing, except where we're talking about the overlay zone, which is the overlay zone for is outside of this area and is for that back area on Laurel Hill Drive, where we had residential houses and we wanted them to retain the residential and also have the commercial, because we had recently changed that whole back area to the TCD, but we decided to keep the overlay there so they had both choices. So we didn't take away the value of their property for residential. And in that overlay zone, we do mention about the density because it is residential. So the TCD itself is not necessarily is a commercial zone. So, but we don't mention anything about that. Though examples of high density are Brookfield Village itself. And other, things like that. So,
which was approved prior to this current 2018 regs. And so back then we were able to build in high density.
Sure. And I have to say, even this across the street, 731 Federal Road, which is the food emporium with apartments on the top. That's also high density. I forget how many apartments are there, but there's no talk of what the density requirements are that I can see on a casual look here. I think we'll have to go through and check that out. It might be another housekeeping thing for the TCD itself. Eric, do you remember anything about that necessarily when we were looking at the regs? I think it might be one of these things there's so many things that we're changing.
Yeah, I don't ever remember talking about the density in the town center district. I remember specifically the overlay like you do.
Right.
I just don't remember talking about it at all. And it might be one of those things of we already had so many density projects in there, but I'm looking for any type of even definition, like, the TC or overlay zone doesn't tell you how many,
right?
Just encourage of sufficient density to support small scale commercial and transit uses.
Right.
I mean, that's basically, we did an overlay zone on the TCD to almost match what we believed was in the TCD.
For the back, that overlay, the residential overlay. Yeah,
which have been TCD of sufficient density to support, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even that doesn't tell you what the density is, it's of sufficient density.
Yeah.
So I'm almost thinking that, when we were thinking about that, because I remember talking about the TCD perimeter overlay zone, we were talking about making that pretty much the same type of density zone as the TCD. Isn't that your
Mhm.
recollection, Kurt?
Um,
Or no?
I know we wanted to keep so they could still have their single family residences in the back there. And that's why we had the overlay, whatever residential. So because of that, we overlaid the residential 3.14, 3.15 there. But that wouldn't apply to the rest of it. So I don't think we ever talked to density in the regular TCD, and I'd have to look through the design guidelines, but I don't think they talked to density there either, a specific number.
Right, right. And that's what I remember, Kurt, is that when we said that, because what the TCD does not allow is single family residence.
Right, right.
So we did this overlay zone because we didn't want to change that zone to not allow family residents because they're there and people, there's probably people who lived on that road for a while.
Yep.
But and I remember having the talk with a lot of the people that came into the specific meeting saying that you devalued our property. And I challenged saying the opposite. We actually valued your property. You now will have more value of the property. I remember a lot of people was happy with that, except for one gentleman who said, well, he's going to die in the house and he has nobody he's leaving it to. So he doesn't really care. I'm like, and I remember saying to him, sorry, sir, we can't please everybody, but at least we please the majority. If you remember that.
Yeah.
So I remember talking about having that overlay zone pretty much matching the TCD, because eventually if the property's worth that much, we thought it was going to push through.
Yeah, but it only goes along Laurel Hill Drive. And
Right.
these properties are outside that overlay.
Which properties?
The ones he's talking about, Station Hill Road.
Right, but he's in the TCD.
Yeah, but not the overlay. So
Right.
he's
So it was always my thought that that overlay was supposed to match the density of the TCD that we were going to allow.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Everything, remember the whole streetscapes and everything was going all the way around.
Right.
So we visualized maybe in 20 years or something, that all being of basically the same density. And then, then comes other people going, well, once we go down that road, do we have to have commercial on the first floor? So as we get further away. So it was my understanding of everybody when we did this is that was supposed to match it. So what I'm saying is kind of almost like the same wording of what should be in the TCD of sufficient density.
Yeah.
We have to make it match.
You're right. And I think that brings up another issue we have here, because we reference some residential sections, the 314, 315, and those are of lower density because they're residential. And that's not like what you said, that's not what we intended. We wanted them to have residential single family up to the density of what the TCD had or what we envisioned to have. And we don't have a specific number, which is, Alan, that's what you're talking about. You don't have a number.
Yes.
And you don't know what to do. Or you have what your buildings are, but you're like, does it meet the regs or not?
Right. I'm not even asking for a high density, but I can't do eight units per acre.
Right.
I need something higher. And the TCD overlay, I'd have to look at that, but I'm sure it will work for us. All the rules.
Yeah. But that shows a hole we have. We have to figure out, what that number should be for the TCD in general, based on what's there now, what's been approved, and what we intended, basically. Like, for example, what's the density of Brookfield Village right now, would you say?
Well, the front portion is a high density. I would have to, I don't know what, I'd have to calculate that out.
Oh, all right.
Because the land, but in the back, we have 5.3 acres. And I'm only asking for 53 units of residential.
10 or
So I'm
over.
not asking for high density.
Alan, is the other one all market units?
The buildings 1 and 4 have affordable in them. Buildings 2 and 3, which is under construction now, is 100% market rate. And what I want for the back is 100% market rate.
Right. So when we're talking about this, we need to be talking about when it's 100% market rate, because as soon as it goes affordable, we're in a different world altogether.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm only concerned with phase 3, which is the 5.3 acres for 53 units.
And those are
Because the
all-
other stuff's already been approved.
And those are going to
Sorry,
be all
Eric?
market rate?
I'm sorry?
They're going to be all market rate?
Yes, all the new ones would be market rates.
Okay. So when we're comparing apples to apples, we got to make sure that, you know, when we look at our densities, we're looking at densities where we did not have affordables,
Right.
where it was, you know, market rate to market rate. Like I think Scalzo with those were they townhouses,
They're duplexes.
they came in, those were all market rate as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, and that's in the overlay.
Yes, yes.
Right.
That's
And
right.
it's interesting because, you know, we didn't think about what the density was during the overlay because all we say is sufficient.
Right. So they have 12 units there. And there's 8 units per acre in what the section that they're referred to, 3.14. That's what the overlay refers to. And I'd have to look at the plan to see how many acres they have. So if they have 12 units, they'd have to have 1.5 acres, and that looks like more than 1.5 acres, you know, that property. So
Yeah.
I think they met the density there, but we have no number for the TCD, except we have a just words like sufficient. That's it.
It does say for the TCD overlay that you get a bonus, so it's 12 units for a 3-story structure. So 12 units per acre.
Oh,
And that's in section G on page, you said there's different versions, but in my version, page 67, which is online. Page 67, G4, G3.
that's 3.14.
That's
Yes.
that's density bonus for affordable units.
Oh, yeah, that's the bonus for affordable, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
is, those are residential requirements only for the overlay in the TCD, which you aren't in.
Right, correct.
So those wouldn't apply, but we don't know what applies because we don't have a number.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So hopefully, that really answers your question.
It's what I expected, which is it's not specified in the code book.
No, the only thing that I could say is kind of specified is of sufficient density. So
Yeah.
I would imagine your question to us would be, what is sufficient density? And the only thing I could tell you is, well, we'll let you know when it's not, when we see it. So I guess that's not a great answer. So we'll have to go
No,
back.
but
to the drawing
actually,
board.
that is a good answer because then we can put in our application.
Well, right now, as the regs are written and we look towards the other ones in the overlay to look for what we had the original meaning of when we wrote this, that would
Right.
be it.
Yeah. What the history shows. Yeah.
Correct.
It would be sufficient density.
Sufficient density, but that's not a great definition for you.
Well, it's okay for me because I don't think you'll have any problem with our density. We're talking about on 5 acres of land, 53 units. That's pretty low density.
Yeah.
Does,
Just like 11.
this is an informal talk. Does anybody else in the on the board want to voice their opinion on density in that area?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay. And the only thing I suggest to the commission members is when thinking about the density and what would be sufficient, is that when you look around the 4 corners or that whole district, you can't keep in mind the affordables because that's a completely different density level. We got to go with what is there at market rate, which, Alan, honestly, you might be right that it could be sufficient. But, you know, when you're thinking about the 4 corners right now, you're thinking about the massive buildings with all them in there with a lot more density, but that's because it was affordable. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we'll discuss it. If you want to come back with something right now, as our regs say, it's what is sufficient density.
Alan,
It's what I would like to come. Sorry,
did you
sorry.
calculate for buildings 2 and 3, which are market? Did you say before you don't know the density or you were going to find it out?
I don't, because that's already been approved. I was just looking at the back lot, which is separate lots.
I'm just curious whether you know it, not whether it's approved
You
or not.
see, it's a total of 40 residential units. I think it's about an acre, but I'm not sure. You can't quote me on the size of the lots.
But those are affordable too.
No, 2 and 3 are 100% market rates.
2 and 3 are market rate.
The ones under construction right now are market rate.
Right.
So 1 is affordable.
1 and 4 are affordable. Units 1 and 4, the 2 that already exist. So the
green
red
and
building
red.
with
Yeah.
the ice cream place and building 1 with Subway
Right.
have affordable in them.
I'm just curious, do they have approximately the same number of units as your market rate?
The building 1 and 4 together have 48 units. Buildings 2 and 3 have 40 units. And then we're looking for 53 in the back.
Okay.
All right.
So my plan, if this is okay with the board, I'd like to come in with an application in the near future and to show for discussion purposes. That
So
okay with
you-
everyone?
Well, hold on. Is it an application or are you coming in with a plan for discussion purposes? Because an application, we're not really discussing it informally.
It would be, okay, it's not informal, but it would be an application for a formal discussion,
Okay.
public and all that. Yes.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Okay.
And I would add, Alan, to bring those calculations too for buildings 2 and 3, that
Sure.
you've actually done them, because then that goes to what we have to decide and we can judge what's there versus what you're presenting.
Okay. Of course, buildings 2 and 3 were built under different regs.
Yeah,
Understood.
but it exists and it's what we want in that area.
Okay.
Well,
Got it.
And also, when you define the word suitable, it's going to be in that area, at least to me, my definition of suitable is what's in that area, what's right directly around it and everything else, because that's the word suitable.
Right. Okay. I agree. It makes a lot of sense. Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Mr. Chair, Alan, before you
Eric,
leave.
could I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Frank.
just so that, to be fair to Alan, should we schedule time to talk about this, to come up with this calculation that Kurt is referring to before Alan comes before us?
I don't think so. For this reason, Frank. One, I think Alan's actually happy because he said he was happy with the suitable and he wants to come forward with us with his plan underneath the regs as it's written. Am I wrong about that, Alan?
No, you're correct, Eric.
Yeah, thinking
Jim?
that the word sufficient will be flexible enough.
Yes, because I'm not looking for something very dense in the new
Okay,
project
okay,
at phase 3.
I understand. Now I get it.
Go ahead, Jim.
Just a question. I didn't know if Alan, if this should be something that's brought forward to the development meeting on the Tuesday mornings at Town Hall prior to you going to zoning again. I'm asking Eric that question too, I guess.
Well, that would be, really, if you go to that meeting, if your question is mainly concerning zoning, I would say not really, because you just talked to the board. Otherwise, when I'm there or Fran is there, he's kind of saying, well, the board, or this is what the reg looks like. You're going to have to ask the board, and he's right back to us. I don't think
Okay.
there's really any other, because I love those meetings, Jim. I really do. I think they're great. But I don't think he really needs to go, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, I think your only question on this whole thing is with zoning, not with any of the other municipalities or boards.
Eric, I agree with you. And Jim, thank you for coming, but I think we're good on the
All right.
zoning and what I need.
And I think this is sort of along the original plans that were brought to the town many, many years ago. So, as a personal citizen, I'm in favor of moving this forward to get that area developed. Some shape, some form, and definitely market rate units is, a good thing to hear.
Yes, thank you, Jim.
And to thank the zoning commission for all your help with trying to help Alan with this project through. Thank you, guys.
And for the board, just so you guys know, I'm going to present at the next as zoning commission soon is a plan that you guys have seen. We saw it 10 months ago. It's very, very similar. Pool in the back, high end units, market rate. It looks
Right.
really nice. So I think you'll be pleased.
Look
All
forward
right,
to it.
thanks, Alan. Is anybody else here, Fran, for any informal? I don't see anyone else online.
I don't think so, no. That was the only thing on the agenda was Alan. In regards to that.
You got in on there the last minute. Didn't even make the agenda. Geez, Alan, good job.
Thanks.
Fran, is there anything else? You usually have something, but I don't think you have anything tonight, do you?
Well, I do. Yes, I do. So we're not getting off that easy. So, and actually, it's funny because we bring up the TCD. Is the fact is that it was inquired to me about TCD about single family housing, and when I go into the table of permitted uses under Article 4, single family, one family dwellings. In TCD, it's considered a site plan. So I'll give everybody a chance if they want to look at the regs quick or go there. But under dwellings and residential care, one family dwellings are considered allowable.
In the overlay. In the overlay.
Overlay.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, there's an
Yeah.
asterisk. There's an
Oh,
asterisk.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're not in the TCD. I remember, I don't know if you remember this a long time ago, Fran. This was actually 12 years ago before I got on the commission.
Yep.
I was gonna put I wanted to buy the one property that was in Brookfield. And at that point, you could not put, again, still, it's been forever, you couldn't put a single family residence in there. However, the commit or the regulations at that time allowed apartments on the second floor, square footage, whatever it be. But
Yeah.
then we allowed for caretaker residences.
The caretakers, that's correct. Yeah.
And caretaker residences were undefined in size. So I could have just made that the entire caretaker residence a little part of my office. And I did not go forward with it. I actually allowed the commission to change their regs to fix that. But I remember that argument being back then that nobody wanted to have anyone in the TCD with a single family residence, because then they feel like that person's the mayor of the town because they're the only one there. And that was before it was really built up. So now you got it really built up. I can understand the rationale why. And so you left it for a site plan. And I mean, it's got to be a really, really good excuse of why you want a single family residence there.
Okay, that's good. That's one item I got for you. Another one's going to be Airbnb, short-term rentals. I've had numerous calls on them. I'm confused.
It's funny because I just see VRB now just advertising everywhere.
It's crazy. I mean, my phone has not stopped ringing about Airbnbs. I'm trying to interpret the regulation, trying to provide it to everybody that I can provide it to correctly. But I have a question with regards to it, because if you go to 3.19 short-term rental, but then if you go to the definitions of lodging or lodging, however people want to pronounce it, because short-term rentals refers you to that. It says short-term rental, the rental of a dwelling unit or part of a property for occupancy by someone other than the unit's owner or permanent resident for no more than 14 consecutive days during any 6-month period, with no property being used for such temporary rental more than 3 times during any 6-month period. I've had attorneys question me on this. I've been literally up and down all week about this. So I want to get the interpretation of the commission. So my understanding is if I own a house and I want to rent it out for an Airbnb, I can only rent it out for 3 times in a 6-month period for no more than 14 days, consecutive days. Is that correct?
That is correct.
But what happens if I want to rent it out for a weekend? I want to rent. how does that count? That's a question I'm getting. You know?
I think the 14-day thing was to distinguish between short-term rental, which is under 14 days, and anything longer, which is like a lease or a rental, you know. And so then now that we know what a short-term rental is, you're right. Only 3 times can you do a verbal or a Airbnb in a 6-month period. That said, you know, we've had discussions with it, like, should it be more or less? More, you know, because that might have seemed too small, but that's the way it is right now.
But Kurt, I remember, so unlike, you know, what Alan brought up about the TCD, we didn't really talk about this. I remember talking about this at length.
Yeah.
And we heard from a lot of people, which were actually citizens in Brookfield, saying that they do not want, this is what they wanted. And we actually extended beyond what those citizens wanted, especially the people on Candlewood Lake.
Yes.
Because they said that those people that rent the houses tend to be up all night partying and during the week and everything else. And it was very much a distraction to them.
Right.
So we actually want a little bit beyond what the actual residents that don't rent their place out wanted. And when they made their arguments, and there was quite a few of them, they were compelling because they're saying that the people that rent it, they're off all week. They have the entire place the whole week. They're going all night, and it's chaotic. And when it first came to me, I'm like, why not? You know, it's your property. Why not be able to VRB or VRB it? But, you know, when you heard the people speak when we were writing the regs, I got why. And it was really Candlewood Lake is the reason why.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
and you know, it's, if you just have to look to New Fairfield, and there's both sides up there, the complaints about the parties all night and naked people running around, and it's a safety issue too. We didn't, you know, neighbors, I remember talking, they didn't want different people there all the time, and they were concerned about the security. So that's, you know, we came up with those numbers for now.
yeah. We figured people were VRBing it, and they can't do it more than 3 times. Regardless if it's for 3 days or 1 week, that was a time. So, and it was mainly about the rental time. So they can do it 6 times in a year. You know, the neighbors didn't want it at all.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just remember going back and forth telling people, you know what, I get it. It's going to be the summer, but the other neighbors do it because the VRB is going to be this. This was like actually a very long drawn out discussion, how we came up with those.
Yeah.
How long ago was that, Eric?
3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years.
Okay.
So it was pretty, it was still a very relevant at that time.
Sure. Given where we are in the world, do you think it's worth revisiting those numbers?
You can always revisit the numbers, but I think that you need to have the townspeople talk again.
Oh, no question. No question.
Yeah. It's, you know, with the short-term rentals, you know, it's not COVID stuff where people are like, oh yeah, we're going to go off site. It's like, these are, especially around the Candlewood Lake, these people are going there to have a vacation, you know, and it's the raucous ones that is the issue, and too many different ones. And that's, and all you have to do is look in the paper and see surrounding towns, especially the towns around Candlewood Lake, like New Milford. Now, right now, New Milford voted it down through, I think, a town meeting or something, but it was close because there's plenty of people that just wanted some restrictions on short-term rentals for the same reasons that we discussed, because we discussed what they were going through as well. So I thought we came up with a good happy medium. But let me ask you, Fran, aside from, you know, the definition of and specifying what it is, what were some of the comments or they have misunderstandings about it, the lawyers or the people, or?
There was misunderstandings. They couldn't interpret it correctly. Yeah. It was like Little Nola. Someone was looking to purchase like a $1.2 million house, but he was looking to rent it out. And I said, well, you can only do it for either you're going to do long-term with a lease,
right?
Like a yearly rental, or this is what we require. No signage with the Airbnb, but obviously, I mean, if he has a $1.2 million house, I can't see him, you know, renting out to anybody, you know, obviously. But
Yeah.
But,
I
yeah,
mean,
but
if
it
it's
was-
over, if it's over 14 days, we don't consider that short term. So
No.
we don't care what
exactly.
they do. You know, they could do a month and no problem.
Yep.
They could do 6 months, a month, 6 times in a row or 12 times in a row. And
Technically, they can do 15 days.
yeah,
Well, there must be people that do this verbo and don't ask, right? And just.
All right, so that was my next,
No.
that was my
Like-
next comment I was gonna give Frank, Phoebe. You're absolutely right. When we had this discussion, we tell people this has happened when we had the cow in a box and everything else. We said, sir, the only reason you are here today is because you couldn't work it out with your neighbor.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Right, that's
So
right.
if it doesn't get brought to our commission, we don't do anything. We have to have a formal complaint. So at that point, when we were talking about too, we're allowing the 3 times per year, we're like, that's if your neighbors dislike you and what's going
Okay.
on. If the neighbors don't have any problems, we don't hear about it. And that was what we said as well. And Frank, and here's the thing of probably why I mean, I'm going to be gone in November anyways, but probably the only reason why I don't think you want to revisit it is because when we did this, and this is how I knew it was a good agreement, both parties were unhappy with what we decided. When I've always figured out, I used to do divorce law, if both parties are unhappy, that's probably the best resolution. If one party's happy and the other's not, that's not. So we left with both parties unhappy. I'm not too sure if you want to bring something up again where you're going to leave with both parties unhappy. That would be my only final saying on that one.
Sure. Fran, the number of calls you've gotten, any idea in terms of mostly for, mostly against, is it half and half?
They're trying to interpret the regulation. That's what they're concerned about. I had 4 calls this week alone about it. Different properties. Once, 2 of the
Because they
attorneys,
wanted
and
it.
2 property owners.
They wanted
People that potentially buying properties. One on Lake Lowell and one in Candlewood Shores. And they're just trying to figure out, interpret the regulation as what they can do with the property, what they can't do if they want to rent it out. So.
Now, as opposed to Verbo and Airbnb, there's another company that's raising hell in Sonoma County, California, Picasa. What they do is you go in, you buy a share of a home and you get, it's not a timeshare, it's close to it, but it's raising holy hell in Sonoma and the residents don't want it because of partying. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm wondering whether these people, some of them are thinking, because it's expected that Picasa is going to come to the East Coast.
like shared ownership almost.
But
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
shared, that's step, so if we get a complaint, then they better come down and either that person better be on the deed, or if they come down with the corporate, like an LLC owns it or a corporation owns it, they better show me that he's a shareholder.
Oh, no, to be sure. I was talking about the complaints that may come in because of that. I understand. It's an ownership versus a short-term rental.
Right. There's no way that if they're gonna have shares in an ownership of a corporation, there's no way that you can restrict that legally.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then this becomes a police enforcement over noise and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So we're trying to prevent that. And we bring some of these units out of the dark, just like with the accessory apartments. If we allow them, then they're not as many as underground as before. And so we know that.
And I remember why we said 14 days is because people that rent something out for 14 days are not the type of party people that are going out there and whooping it up for 3 or 4 nights.
No.
They're actually going to be a little bit tamer and toner if they're there for 14 days or over that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there was a lot of discussion and a lot of thought that went into that part.
Did they
Kinda
come
like-
into informal discussions into the zoning meetings?
Say again?
Did you have people come into the zoning meetings for
There was a lot
informal
of people that
discussions?
came forward with this one, yeah. A
Okay.
lot of,
There was, yeah.
that was one of the most people that came out was about that, as I recall, for the rewrite.
Mhm.
So I believe New Fairfield was going through that problem at that time too. That's what drew the attention. So.
Yeah,
Did you
exactly.
say New Milford doesn't allow it at all? Did I hear somebody say that?
No. New Fairfield did not did not add it to it and did not restrict it. They have no regs on.
Did somebody say something about New Milford or not? Just it was.
No, just that they're another town that's on the lake. It's those lake towns. But I haven't heard of New Milford. I don't know what they have regarding short-term rentals. So,
Yeah.
Does that help you, Fran?
Sounds like a hot topic, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely. Yep.
Yeah.
Then I have one more thing for you is I was called tonight about granny pods again. Obviously with COVID and the price of, the housing for seniors and stuff.
I'm gonna shake my head. No, everybody wasn't here for. Here was the problem with. Were you here for that, Kurt? The granny pods?
yeah, it was a year and a half ago or something.
Might have been
remember.
longer than
Can
that.
someone tell me what that is? A granny pod?
A granny pod is that your elderly, which is the idea itself is perfect and great. So if you have an elderly parent or anybody else, they'll drop off a pod on a foundation, and it's a rental so that they can live there. Here's the problem. We said, well, what if they stop paying? We go pick it up. What about the foundation? That's not us. So the only thing I could vision at that time was when they come and pick up the pod after the person passes away, there's now a foundation that person has to deal with. We're going to have all these empty foundations sitting there. So I said, absolutely no, horrible idea. Because unless you guys are going to agree to clean up your mess and put that property back into its condition, personally, I don't want to see Brookfield looking into a concrete waste zone of just foundations for these granny pods.
This is
Remember
really
that,
a
Fran?
thing. I've never even heard of it.
Well, it is. And I was,
Google it.
Is that the
Google
real name of it?
Yeah, Google.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, I that guy was very unhappy with me because I just no way.
Yeah.
No way do I want just rock foundations. And I said, listen, come back to this. And it was an informal. I said, come back to this commission. Will you have a plan to get rid of the foundations or anything else? And the guy, nope, not our business plan. Well, yeah, because it costs money and you're going to leave the town with it looking like that.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
it.
Thank you for that.
That's all I got.
All right. Any of the commissioners?
We have to decide if we're going to keep Zooming next month or going back to meeting in person.
I haven't seen that the numbers have come sufficiently down yet. We're still over 3% in Connecticut.
It's really bad. My son is home quarantining because of COVID at school. I'm happy to stay on Zoom.
Yeah, me too.
Well, and if you're going to stay on Zoom, you guys already know that it's going to stay throughout the winter because you got Halloween coming, then you got Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty easy to let everybody know it's probably going to be Zoom until spring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just didn't want us to go away and be like, oh no, what are we doing in October? We hadn't decided.
Oh, that's a good point, Mary. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, we were going on a month by month
I
basis.
Yeah.
Further notice, honestly.
We should just keep it on month by month, but we should put it on the agenda at the next, not the next meeting, but
That's a good idea. I do like meeting in person too. There's something about it that's really nice, and just to see all of you guys in person and everyone in town. I sort of like going in person too, but with COVID and then wearing the masks in the meeting at town hall, that's a bit like, that's a long evening in the mask.
Yeah.
So, one more
Right.
vote for
With
Zoom.
the mask, you can never see my shocked look.
Can I just make one more comment? I just want to make sure everyone,
Fran, you said that you were done.
I'm sorry. Well, I think the commission I wanted to just make sure the commission seen the letter from G. Boyle regarding the approval for 117 Old State Road. That's all. I just want to make it on the record that everyone did see that. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I read it.
Okay, that's it.
All right, anything from any other commissioners?
Oh, I'll have a motion to adjourn since Leslie's not here.
President's not here. Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Have a
Aye.
great night, guys.
Bye and
Good
bye.
night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Night, everyone.